I was the sheriff of Cedar Falls, Montana in 1983. Population 4,200.
Let me in! Let me in!
Before we start, hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. Drop a like and comment where you're watching from. Let's get into it. My name is Daniel Hawkins, and in 1983, I was the sheriff of Cedar Falls, Montana. Population 4,200. One main street, 2 traffic lights, a diner that closed at 8 p.m., and a police department with 6 officers, including myself. The kind of town where everyone knew everyone and nothing ever happened. Until something did. I'd been sheriff for 11 years by then. Before that, I was a deputy for 8. 19 years total wearing a badge in Cedar Falls. I knew every street, every family, every kid who'd ever gotten into minor trouble. I knew the town's secrets, its history, its rhythms. Or I thought I did. The night shift in Cedar Falls was usually quiet. We ran 2 officers per shift during the day, but nights were just me and 1 deputy from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Most nights, nothing happened. Maybe a drunk driver, maybe a domestic disturbance, maybe some kids out past curfew. Small-town police work. Boring, repetitive, safe. November 14th, 1983 started like any other Monday night. I arrived at the station at 9:45 p.m., 15 minutes before my shift. Deputy Frank Mercer was finishing up the evening shift, feet on his desk, reading a paperback Western. He looked up when I walked in and something crossed his face. Not quite fear. More like resignation. "Danny," he said. He never called me Danny. Always Sheriff or Hawkins. "Frank. Everything okay?" He set down his book and looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You don't want to be here tonight." I laughed it off. "You trying to get out of your shift early?" He didn't smile. "I'm serious. Call in sick, go home, let the night shift handle itself." Frank had been a deputy for 6 years. A solid officer, never prone to dramatics. Seeing him this unsettled made my stomach tighten. "What's going on?" I asked. He stood up and grabbed his jacket. "Just trust me. Stay home tonight. I've got to go." He was out the door before I could ask anything else. I watched through the window as he got in his truck and drove away fast, like something was chasing him. The station felt different after he left. Quieter. The fluorescent lights seemed dimmer than usual, the shadows in the corners deeper. I shook it off. Frank had probably just had a bad day. Personal problems, money trouble, something like that. At 10 p.m. sharp, Deputy Louise Wood arrived for night shift. She was the youngest officer on the force, 26 years old, sharp as a tack and twice as determined. She'd been with us for 3 years and I'd never seen her rattled by anything. Until that night. She walked in looking pale, her uniform slightly disheveled like she'd dressed in a hurry. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but didn't meet my eyes. "Fine, just didn't sleep well. You and Frank both acting strange tonight. Something I should know about?" She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Had she been crying? "Sheriff," she said quietly. "My grandmother called me this afternoon. She grew up here, you know that. She told me not to come to work tonight. Said it was one of the nights." "One of the nights? What does that mean?" She shook her head. "I don't know." She wouldn't explain. Just kept saying stay inside, stay quiet, don't answer the door. I asked her what she meant and she hung up. "Your grandmother's what, 80 years old? She's probably just confused." Louise didn't look convinced. "She's sharper than both of us combined. And she was scared, Sheriff, genuinely scared. I wanted to dismiss it, wanted to chalk it up to coincidence and superstition. But Frank's warning, Louise's grandmother, the feeling I couldn't shake that something was off. It all added up to an unease I couldn't ignore. "Let's just do our jobs," I said. regular patrol schedule. Anything seems wrong, we call it in. Okay? She nodded. Okay. The first few hours were normal. I drove the patrol route through town, checking the closed businesses on Main Street, circling through the residential areas. Everything was quiet. Lights off in most houses by 11 p.m. Cedar Falls was an early-to-bed kind of place. At midnight, I stopped at the diner for coffee. Betty always left a pot on for night shift even after closing. I let myself in with the key she'd given me years ago, poured a cup, left 2 quarters on the counter. Same routine I'd done 1,000 times. But as I stood there drinking my coffee, looking out the diner window at the empty street, I noticed something. Or rather, I noticed the absence of something. No dogs barking. Cedar Falls was a dog town. Seemed like every other house had one, and at night you could always hear them, barking at raccoons, at deer, at each other. It was background noise I'd stopped consciously noticing years ago, but tonight there was nothing. Complete silence. I finished my coffee and got back in the cruiser. Keyed the radio. "Louise, you copy?" "Copy, Sheriff. What's up?" "You notice anything strange tonight? Anything at all?" Static for a moment. Then it's quiet, really quiet. No dogs. "Yeah, I noticed that too." "Keep your eyes open." I resumed patrol, driving slower now, scanning the streets more carefully. The houses were all dark, which was normal for this hour. But something about the darkness felt different. Heavier. Like the houses weren't just asleep, but empty. Abandoned. At 1 a.m. I got a call from dispatch. Martha Hendricks, our night dispatcher, had been doing the job for 20 years. Her voice was steady but clipped. "Sheriff, I've got a weird one for you. Mrs. Patterson on Elm Street says someone's standing in her backyard. Won't move, won't respond when she calls out. Just standing there. I'll check it out. Send Louise as backup." Already did, she's en route. I drove to Elm Street, a quiet residential block 3 streets over from Main. Mrs. Patterson was a widow in her 70s, lived alone, never caused trouble. When I pulled up, I could see her standing at her Kitwood window, phone pressed to her ear, looking out at her backyard. I got out of the cruiser and approached her back gate. Drew my flashlight and shined it into the yard. Empty. I checked behind the shed, behind the trees, even looked over the fence into the neighbors' yards. Nothing. Mrs. Patterson opened her back door as I came around. "It was right there," she said, pointing to the center of her lawn. "A man, just standing there, staring at the house. Didn't move for 10 minutes. Can you describe him?" She shook her head. It was too dark. But he was tall, very tall, and he was wearing old clothes, like from the 50s or 60s. I could see the shape of them. Did he say anything? Make any threatening gestures? No, he just stood there. Then, when I called you, I looked back and he was gone. Louise pulled up as I was taking Mrs. Patterson's statement. She walked the perimeter, checked the neighboring yards, came back with nothing. "No footprints in the grass," she said quietly, so Mrs. Patterson wouldn't hear. "Ground's soft from the rain yesterday. If someone was standing there that long, there should be impressions." I looked at the lawn. She was right. The grass was undisturbed. We assured Mrs. Patterson we'd increase patrols on her street and headed back to our vehicles. As we walked, Louise grabbed my arm. "Sheriff," she whispered. "Look." She pointed down Elm Street. At first I didn't see anything, then I did. A figure, standing on the sidewalk 3 houses down. Perfectly still. Just standing there in the middle of the night, facing us. I reached for my radio. "Martha, we've got a possible trespasser on Elm Street, requesting..." The figure was gone. Between one blink and the next, it vanished. Louise and I looked at each other. "You saw that," she said. It wasn't a question. I saw it. We searched the area, found nothing, no footprints, no evidence anyone had been there at all. But we'd both seen it. A tall figure in old-fashioned clothing standing on the sidewalk watching us. At 2 a.m., we regrouped at the station. Martha had coffee waiting, her face pinched with worry. "I've been getting calls," she said. 6 in the last hour. All reporting the same thing. People standing in yards, in streets, on sidewalks. Not moving, not responding. And when people look away, they're gone. "Who's calling?" I asked. She handed me the list. 6 names, all long-time Cedar Falls residents. All reliable, not prone to pranks or hysteria. "What the hell is going on?" Louise asked. I didn't have an answer, but I was starting to think Frank and Louise's grandmother had been right. This was one of the nights, whatever that meant. At 2:30 a.m., every light in Cedar Falls went out. Not a gradual dimming, not a flicker before failure. One moment the street lights were on, the station lights were on, the few porch lights still burning around town were on. The next moment, total darkness. Louise swore. Martha grabbed for the emergency lantern we kept under the dispatch desk. "Generator should kick in," I said. "Give it a second." We waited. 10 seconds, 20, 30. The generator didn't kick in. "I'll check the fuse box," Louise said, pulling out her flashlight. "Wait," I told her. "Something's wrong here. We stay together." The 3 of us moved through the darkened station, flashlight beams cutting through the black. The fuse box was in the back room. Everything looked normal. No tripped breakers, no blown fuses. "It's not us," Louise said. "The power's out everywhere." I went to the window and looked out at Main Street. She was right. The whole town was dark. No street lights, no house lights, no illumination at all. Just pure, complete blackness. And then I saw them, standing in the street. Dozens of them, men, women, children, all standing perfectly still, all facing the police station. "Louise," I said, "come here." She joined me at the window. I heard her breath catch. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Sheriff, are those—" I recognized some of the faces, Harold Green, who'd disappeared in 1967 while hiking. The Matsuda family, all 4 of them, vanished from their home in 1971. Tommy Briggs, 12 years old, never came home from school in 1979. I knew these faces because they were on posters, in old files, in the memories of everyone who'd lived in Cedar Falls long enough to remember them. The missing. Everyone who'd gone missing from Cedar Falls for the last 30 years was standing in the street outside the police station, and they were all looking at us. Martha's voice came from behind us, shaking. "Sheriff, what do we do?" I didn't know. In 19 years of law enforcement, I'd never seen anything like this. Never heard of anything like this. People didn't just come back after being missing for decades, and they definitely didn't come back all at once, in the middle of the night, and stand in the street staring. Louise pulled her weapon. "Should we go out there?" "No," I said immediately. "We don't know what this is. We don't know what they want. We stay inside, we stay together, and we figure out what the hell is happening." As I spoke, the figures in the street began to move. Not toward us, just shifting position, rearranging themselves, forming a line that stretched across Main Street, blocking both directions. They weren't attacking, they weren't threatening, they were just standing there, waiting. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a terrible thought began to form. They weren't waiting for us to come out. They were waiting for us to let them in. For 10 minutes, nobody moved. Not us inside the station, not them outside in the street. We just stared at each other through the window, flashlight beams illuminating faces that shouldn't exist anymore. I counted them. 43 people. Men, women, children. Some I recognized from missing persons files. Others I didn't know but assumed were from before my time. All of them standing in perfect formation, facing the station, waiting. "They're not doing anything," Louise whispered. "Just standing there." "That's what worries me," I replied. Martha was on the radio trying to reach anyone. State police, county dispatch, neighboring towns, nothing but static on every frequency. "Lines are dead," she said. "Phone too. I can't reach anyone." We were cut off. No power, no communication, no backup. Just 3 people in a dark police station surrounded by 43 missing persons who'd returned from God knows where. I made a decision. I'm going to try to talk to them. "Sheriff, no," Louise said immediately. "We don't know what they are. They're people. They're residents of this town. Whatever happened to them, maybe they need help. Or maybe they're the reason everyone warned us about tonight." She had a point. But I couldn't just stand here doing nothing while 43 potential victims stood in the cold. If they were victims, if they were still people, "Cover me from the window," I said. "Anything goes wrong, you stay inside and barricade the door. Do not come out." Louise wanted to argue. I could see it in her face. But she was a good deputy. She nodded and positioned herself at the window, weapon drawn. I walked to the front door, put my hand on the handle, took a breath. The moment I opened the door, they all turned their heads toward me. 43 heads moving in perfect unison, like puppets on the same string. The synchronization was unnatural. Wrong. I stepped onto the porch, leaving the door open behind me. "I'm Sheriff Daniel Hawkins," I called out. "I need to know if you folks need assistance." No response. They just stared. "If you're in trouble, if someone's hurt you, I can help. But I need you to communicate with me." One of them stepped forward. A man I recognized from old files. Harold Green. Disappeared 1967. He'd be in his mid-60s now if he'd aged normally, but he looked exactly like his missing poster. Mid-30s, brown hair, wearing the same plaid shirt he'd been wearing 16 years ago. He stopped about 10 feet from the porch, close enough that I could see his face clearly in my flashlight beam. His expression was blank, not threatening, not friendly, just empty. "We want to come home," he said. His voice was flat, monotone, like he was reading from a script he didn't understand. "Where have you been?" I asked. "What happened to you?" "We were taken. Now we're returned. We want to come home." "Taken by who?" "Where?" Harold tilted his head slightly. The motion was wrong. Too smooth, too mechanical. "We want to come home," he repeated. The same words, the same inflection. "Let us in. We want to come home." I felt my skin crawl. This wasn't a conversation, it was a recording. "I need you to stay where you are," I said. "We're going to get you help. Medical attention, contact with your families. But I need you to cooperate." Harold stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to the group. When he rejoined them, they all turned their heads forward again, back to staring at the station. They didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there. I went back inside and closed the door. Louise lowered her weapon slightly. What the hell was that? I don't know, but they're not right. Something's wrong with them. Martha spoke up from the dispatch desk. "Sheriff, I've been thinking. My mother used to talk about this, the returns. She said it happened before, a long time ago. Before I was born." "What did she say?" I asked. "She said people came back. Missing people from years before. Came back all at once in the middle of the night. Wanted to come into houses. Wanted to be let in. And anyone who let them in..." She trailed off. "Anyone who let them in what?" Louise pressed. Martha shook her head. She never said. She just told me that if it ever happened again, don't open the door. Don't let them in no matter what they say. Wait until sunrise. Sunrise isn't for another 4 hours, I said. Through the window, I could see the returned still standing in formation. Patient. Unmoving. Then we wait, Louise said. For the next hour, nothing happened. The returned stood in the street like statues. We kept watch in shifts, one person always at the window while the others rested. Not that anyone could really rest. The tension was too thick. At 3:30 a.m., they started moving, not toward the station, toward the houses on Main Street. They split into groups, 3 or 4 at a time, and walked to different homes. When they reached a house, they stopped at the front door and knocked. We could hear it from the station, that same knock, repeated at a dozen houses simultaneously. 3 slow knocks. A pause, then 3 more. "What are they doing?" Louise asked. "Trying to get in," I said. "Trying to find someone who will open the door." We watched in horror as front doors began to open. Residents, woken by the knocking, stepping into their doorways to see who was there. "No," I breathed, "don't." But they couldn't hear me, and one by one, they let the returned in. At the Henderson house, the door opened and Mrs. Henderson stood there in her bathrobe. I saw her face change, shock, recognition. She was looking at someone she knew, someone who'd been gone for years. She stepped aside. Let them in. The door closed. The same scene repeated up and down Main Street. Doors opening. Residents recognizing lost family members, old neighbors, childhood friends, letting them in. "We have to stop this," Louise said. She was moving toward the door. I grabbed her arm. "We go out there, we're outnumbered, and we don't know what happens once they're inside. So we just watch? We wait for sunrise. That's what Martha's mother said. We wait until sunrise." Louise pulled away from me, angry and scared. And what about everyone who just let them into their homes? What happens to them? I didn't have an answer. By 4 a.m., most of the returned had entered houses. Only a handful remained in the street, standing in front of homes where no one had answered the door. They didn't force entry, didn't break windows or kick down doors. They just stood there and kept knocking. 3 slow knocks. Pause. 3 more. The sound was maddening, echoing through the empty streets in the dead silence of the powerless town. Then one of the returned approached the station. It was a young girl, maybe 12 years old. I recognized her immediately. Emily Wood, Louise's cousin. Disappeared in 1975, 8 years ago. She'd been 10 at the time. Louise made a sound. Something between a gasp and a sob. "Emily!" The girl walked up to the station door. Stopped. Looked directly at the window where we were standing. "Louise," she said. Her voice was clear, even through the glass. Flat and empty like Harold's, but using Louise's name. "Let me in. I want to come home." Louise was shaking. "That's Emily. That's my cousin. She went missing when I was 18. We searched for months." "It's not her," I said. "Not anymore. She looks exactly the same. She hasn't aged at all." Emily raised her hand and knocked on the station door. 3 slow knocks. The sound seemed to vibrate through the whole building. "Louise," she said again. "I'm cold. I want to come home. Let me in." Louise took a step toward the door. I put myself between her and it. "No, we don't know what she is. We don't know what happens if we let her in. She's my family," Louise said. Her voice was breaking. "She's been missing for 8 years. I have to help her. Look at her. Look at her eyes. That's not your cousin anymore." Louise looked. I saw the moment she registered it. Emily's eyes were wrong. Not just blank, empty. like looking into holes where eyes should be. "What happened to her?" Louise whispered. "I don't know, but we can't let her in. Whatever took her, whatever changed her, it's using her to get to us. We open that door, and we end up like her." Emily kept knocking. Same pattern. 3 and 3, over and over. Louise backed away from the door, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry, Emily." At 4:30 a.m., I noticed something through the window. The houses where the returned had been let in were changing. Lights were coming on, but not electric lights. Something else. A pale blue glow emanating from inside, visible through the windows. And from inside those houses, sounds were starting. Not screams exactly, more like moaning. A low, continuous drone that seemed to come from multiple voices at once. Whatever was happening in those houses, it wasn't a happy reunion. Martha grabbed my arm. "Sheriff, look." She was pointing at one of the houses across the street. The Miller residence. The front door was opening. Someone stepped out. Tom Miller. He'd lived in Cedar Falls his whole life, owned the hardware store. Good man. Solid citizen. But he was different now. He moved wrong. Same mechanical smoothness as the returned. Same empty expression. Same flat, dead eyes. He walked to the middle of the street and stopped, turned toward the station, stared at us. Behind him, more doors were opening, more residents emerging, all of them moving the same way, all of them with that same emptiness. "They're converting them," Louise said. "Holy shit. They're turning people into more of them." She was right. The returned weren't just coming back. They were spreading, recruiting, taking normal people and making them into whatever they'd become. And now we were even more outnumbered. By 5 a.m., the street was full again. But not just with the original 43 returned. Now there were at least 70, maybe 80. The original missing plus everyone who'd made the mistake of opening their doors. They all stood facing the station, all silent, all waiting. And Emily was still at our door, still knocking. "Louise, let me in. I want to come home." "How long until sunrise?" Martha asked. Her voice was barely audible. "Another hour," I said. "Maybe a little more. We have to make it 1 more hour," Louise said. She'd pulled herself together, her face hard now. "We don't open the door for anything, no matter what they say, no matter who they pretend to be." "Agreed," I said. At 5:15 a.m., they changed tactics. The knocking stopped. Emily stepped back from the door. The crowd in the street shifted, parting down the middle to create a path. And someone new walked forward. It was my wife, Elizabeth. She'd died in 1979. Cancer. I'd held her hand in the hospital as she took her last breath. I'd buried her in Cedar Falls Cemetery, visited her grave every Sunday for 4 years. But there she was, walking toward the station, wearing the dress I'd buried her in, looking exactly like she had the day she died. "Daniel," she said. Her voice was Elizabeth's voice, the same voice I'd heard in my dreams for years. "Let me in. I've missed you so much. Let me in and we can be together again." I felt something crack inside me, some wall I'd built to keep functioning after she died. Seeing her face, hearing her voice, it was too much. "That's not your wife," Louise said from somewhere behind me. "I know. Don't open the door, I know." But I was walking toward it anyway, my hand reaching for the handle. Elizabeth smiled. The smile I'd fallen in love with 30 years ago. "Come on, Daniel. Open the door. I've been waiting so long to come home." My fingers touched the handle. "Sheriff!" Louise shouted. "Don't!" I stopped, forced myself to look at Elizabeth's eyes, really look. They were empty, just like all the others. Whatever was wearing my wife's face, It wasn't her. Couldn't be her. I took my hand off the handle and stepped back. Elizabeth's smile faded. Then her face changed, twisted into something angry and inhuman. "Let us in," she said. But now her voice was different, layered, like multiple voices speaking at once. All of them, the entire crowd in the street, spoke the same words at the same time. "Let us in." The windows shook. The door rattled on its hinges. The collective voice was a physical force, pressing against the station like a wave. We held our ground, didn't open the door, didn't let them in. The sun was coming, just a few more minutes. We just had to last a few more minutes. The entire crowd was pressing toward the station now, not walking. Just leaning forward, bodies tilted at impossible angles, like they were being pulled by invisible strings. Their mouths moved in unison, repeating the same words over and over. "Let us in! Let us in! Let us in!" The windows were shaking so hard I thought they'd shatter. The door was straining against its hinges. Whatever force they were projecting, it was getting stronger, more desperate. "How much longer?" Louise shouted over the noise. I looked east. The sky was starting to lighten, just barely. The faintest hint of gray on the horizon. Minutes, just minutes. The thing wearing Elizabeth's face pressed itself against the front window. Up close, I could see the wrongness more clearly. The skin too smooth, the features slightly off proportion, like a mask that didn't quite fit. Her eyes, which had been warm and full of life when she was alive, were now empty pits. Holes that went down forever into nothing. "Daniel," it said. Its voice was still layered with all the others, but my wife's tone was dominant. "You're going to let us in. You don't have a choice. We've been waiting so long, so patient, and now it's time to come home. This isn't your home," I said. "Whatever you are, wherever you came from, you don't belong here. We belong everywhere. We were here before this town, before your kind built your houses and made your families. We watched you, learned from you, and now we're taking what we've learned and making it better, making it perfect. No more loneliness, no more loss. Everyone together, everyone home, everyone family." "You're killing them," Louise said. She'd moved up beside me, weapon still drawn even though we both knew it was useless. "Whatever you're doing to the people who let you in, you're killing them. Not killing, changing, improving. They become part of us, part of the family. No more pain, no more death. Just unity, just belonging, just peace. That's not life," I said. "That's not living." The Elizabeth thing smiled. A horrible expression that stretched too wide, showed too many teeth. The face I'd loved for 30 years twisted into something monstrous. "You'll understand. Soon, you'll all understand. When you're part of the family, everything makes sense. All the questions stop. All the pain stops. You just belong." The sky was definitely lighter now. I could see colors starting to separate. Gray becoming purple, becoming blue. The sun was close. So close. The crowd suddenly surged. All of them rushing towards the station at once. Not running. Gliding. That same unnatural movement, but faster, more urgent. They hit the walls from all sides, pounding with their fists, their heads, their entire bodies. The building shook. Plaster fell from the ceiling. A crack appeared in the wall near the back room. Martha screamed. Something crashed behind us. One of the windows had broken. They were coming through. "Louise, back door," I shouted. "Martha, stay behind me." We retreated toward the center of the station. Through the broken window, I could see hands reaching in. Arms, faces pressed against the jagged glass, oblivious to the cuts. They didn't bleed. Nothing came out. They were empty inside. hollow things wearing human skin. One of them got through, pulled itself over the windowsill and dropped into the station. It was Tom Miller, the hardware store owner. Good man, solid citizen, now just another puppet with empty eyes. He stood up slowly, looking at us with those hollow eyes. His mouth opened, and words came out, but they weren't his words. They were the same words all of them were saying. The same voice speaking through 100 mouths. "Time to come home," he said. He stepped toward us. I raised my weapon. "Stay back." He didn't stop. None of them did. More were coming through the window. 2, 3, 5. They spread out, surrounding us. Their movements were perfectly synchronized. When one stepped left, they all adjusted. When one reached toward us, they all reached. A single mind controlling multiple bodies. "We're not going to make it," Martha whispered. Her voice was barely audible. She'd retreated behind the dispatch desk, clutching the emergency lantern like it could protect her. I looked east. Through the front window, past the crowd still trying to get in, I could see the horizon. The sky was orange now, pink, gold. The clouds were lit from beneath like they were on fire. The edge of the sun appeared. A beam of light cut across Main Street like a knife, golden and pure and somehow angry. The reaction was immediate. The things inside the station froze, their faces contorted, twisted into expressions of shock and pain and something that might have been recognition. Like they suddenly remembered what they were, what they'd lost. And then they started to come apart, not dissolving. I found a cave. It wasn't on any map, wasn't in any geological survey, just a hole in the rock face, maybe 4 feet across, leading down into darkness. The entrance was partially hidden by brush, but once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it, like it wanted to be found. I should have walked away, should have gone back to town and reported it and let someone else investigate. Send a team. Do it properly. But I was still seeing Elizabeth's face every time I closed my eyes. Still hearing her voice asking me to let her in. Still feeling that moment when I almost did. When I almost opened the door because I missed her so much. I needed to know. I climbed down. The cave went deep. Much deeper than it should have given the terrain. I descended for what felt like an hour, using my flashlight to navigate narrow passages and steep drops. The walls were smooth, too smooth, like they'd been worn down by something moving through them over and over for centuries. The air got colder as I went deeper, damper, wrong somehow. It smelled like earth and stone and something else underneath, something organic, something alive. Then the passage opened up into a chamber, and I saw where the missing had gone. The chamber was massive, cathedral-sized, with a ceiling so high my flashlight couldn't reach it. And covering every surface, floor to ceiling, were cocoons, hundreds of them, thousands maybe. Oblong shapes wrapped in something that looked like gray silk, each one roughly the size of a person. I approached one of them, my footsteps echoing in the vast space, cut it open with my knife. Inside was a body, a man I didn't recognize, middle-aged, dressed in clothing from the 1950s. His eyes were open, empty, and his mouth was moving silently, the same words over and over. "Let me in. Let me in. Let me in." He was alive. After 30 years in this cocoon, he was still alive, still waiting, still trying to get in. I backed away, looked at the thousands of cocoons surrounding me, row after row, stretching into the darkness. How long had this been going on? How many missing from how many years were down here, wrapped in these things being changed and shaped and prepared for the next gathering? I walked through the chamber, examining cocoons at random. Some were old, the silk yellowed and brittle. Others were newer, the wrappings still fresh. Each one contained a person. Each person was still alive, still mouthing those same words. Let me in, and then I saw them, the ones doing the shaping. They emerged from the shadows at the far end of the chamber. Tall, thin, bodies that bent in ways that shouldn't be possible. They moved without sound, flowing more than walking, like water running uphill, and they looked at me with faces that were almost human but not quite. Close enough to fool you in the dark. Close enough to make you open the door. There were 6 of them. They arranged themselves in a semicircle, blocking my path back to the passage. Not threatening, just present, waiting. One of them spoke. The voice was familiar. Multiple tones layered together. The same voice that had come from Elizabeth. From all of them. You've come to see, it said, to understand. Good. Understanding is the first step. What are you? I asked. We are the family. The one family. The true family. We've been here forever. In the deep places. In the dark. Watching your kind. Learning. And every generation we reach out. We offer belonging. We offer unity. Some accept. Some become part of us. The rest will try again next time. We're patient. We have nothing but time. Why? Why do this? Because you're lonely. All of you. You live in your separate houses with your separate lives and you call it freedom, but it's isolation. It's emptiness. You build families, but they fall apart. You make connections, but they fade. You love, but you lose. Always losing, always alone. We offer something better. Connection that lasts. Purpose that never fades. Family that never leaves. Eternity together. No more separation. No more death. Just us. Forever. I thought about Elizabeth. About her last days in the hospital, alone in her pain despite everything I tried to do. About how it felt after she died. The empty house. The silence. The sense that part of me was missing and would never come back. For a moment, just a moment, what they were offering sounded almost appealing. Then I remembered the hollow eyes, the empty voices, the way they'd collapsed into dust at sunrise. The 31 people who'd died because they opened their doors. That's not belonging, I said. That's oblivion. The thing tilted its head, considering my words. Perhaps. But is oblivion so bad? Is nothingness worse than the pain you carry? We take the pain away. We take everything away. The memories, the grief, the fear. And in return, we give purpose, unity, home. Is that really so terrible? This isn't home. Everywhere is home. Everyone is family. You'll understand. Eventually. They all understand eventually. It stepped toward me. The others did too, closing in slowly. I pulled my weapon, knew it wouldn't do any good, but needed to do something. Needed to feel like I had some control. The thing stopped moving, looked at the gun, then back at me. One of them made a sound that might have been laughter. You can leave, it said. We don't take the unwilling. That's not how the family works. We only take those who open the door, those who choose to let us in. You haven't chosen, so you can go. And if I tell people, if I bring others here, it made that sound again. Definitely laughter. Tell them, bring them, it won't matter. We've been here forever. We'll be here forever. The cave is just one door. There are others. So many others. Under every town, every city, every place your kind has built. And every generation, more of you open them. More of you choose to belong. It stepped back. The others did too, retreating into the shadows like they'd never been there at all. Go home, Sheriff. Live your life. Keep your doors locked. And when the next gathering comes, stay inside. You've learned. That makes you one of the rare ones, one of the ones who understand. Then they were gone, just shadows and silence, and the endless rows of cocoons stretching into the darkness. I climbed back to the surface, marked the cave entrance carefully, came back the next day with state police, federal agents, equipment and weapons and everything I could muster. The cave was gone. Not collapsed, not hidden, gone. Like it had never been there. Just solid rock where the entrance used to be. I made them dig, made them drill, made them use every tool available. Nothing. Solid granite all the way down. Nobody believed me, just like I knew they wouldn't. The men in suits came back. Made me sign more documents. Told me I'd imagined it. Told me I was suffering from trauma. Told me to let it go. I didn't imagine it. I know what I saw. I served as sheriff for another 4 years. Retired in 1987. The gathering was still 30 years away based on the pattern. I'd be long dead before the next one. But I made preparations. I wrote down everything I knew. Everything the old-timers had told me. Everything I'd seen in that chamber. The pattern, the timing, the rules of survival. I put it in a letter and gave it to the next sheriff with instructions to pass it on. Generation to generation. Don't let the knowledge get lost again. And I left one final instruction. When the night comes, when the power goes out and the missing return and they stand in the streets asking to come home, stay inside. Don't answer the door. No matter who's knocking. No matter who they look like. No matter how much you want to let them in. Some doors should stay closed.